everyone. Welcome back to the Pain in Your Assets podcast. My name is Shanstella Yvonne Barnes, aka Stella Bee on air. Here recording live in San Diego, California at the Marina Marquis. And before we get into season 1, episode 2 of why I chose this career, just wanted to also mention that in addition to the book, which is my book, Grants and Subcontracts Compliance, The Pain in Your Assets, it's like dating and marriage. It's great for staff, but it's also great for board members and students as well. If you are a student or you have a class, or you want me to teach your nonprofit accounting class at a community college, or have a webinar, or great for that as well. I actually had one of my positions where I had to interact with the organization's board. And sometimes you have to interact where you actually get reporting responsibilities, or even just being able to meet the board is actually a treat. I had a position where I was a fellow with the Chicago Community Trust, and that was a pilot initiative for management, and the fellowship was geared toward upper management in the arts field. And so it was highly publicized, and we actually had the opportunity to meet not just the board, but like the trustees, like the presidents, like the major big wigs, that they would call them, in these organizations, and actually be able to sit in a trustee meeting. I almost felt like I needed to have on one of those George Washington wigs. It was just that such of a great opportunity for me. Like, whoa. I've sat in board meetings, but this particular organization, with, there's small nonprofits and larger ones. This is one of the larger ones, and it was one of their trustee meetings that they invited me to because I was part of this program. It was something to participate in. However, I was a staff liaison at one of the smaller nonprofit organizations, and because you have board members who they have what they call give-get, so they have their annual contribution requirements. They either have to give that minimum amount, or they can get it. They can get it from another organization, sponsorship, whatever it may be. But they also need to understand the financial reports and the numbers, so they can sell the organization to other entities. Just like the CEO of the organization, their job is to be the face of the organization, to be able to sell contributions, mostly individual contributions. Is the CEO. But if they don't understand what's going on with the books, if they don't understand how the agency is actually performing, not just on the program side, but on the financial side as well, it's difficult for them to sell that. And so I just wanted to point out that the book is also beneficial to board members as well. And you have some board members that contribute, in-kind contributions. And an exchange of services is not necessarily an in-kind. In-kind is like you just giving your qualified time without getting anything in exchange for that. If I am an accountant or a media person, and I am giving you that service in exchange for something else, that's an exchange of service. That's not necessarily an in-kind, but I don't want to get all off into that. So getting into the actual topic of season 1, episode 2 of why I chose this career. In the book, I started off with my first year of college, but I kind of want to go back even further with the podcast. I graduated from, in my elementary school, I graduated from Asa Philip Randolph Elementary School, and it was a great year, that time there. It was my third elementary school. I know it's only 8 years, It was my third one because my mom and stepdad, they moved. You know how you have military families that move a lot. So they moved from apartment to house to bigger house to an even bigger house, and so throughout those moves, my schools changed also. And so I have a younger brother who, at least the one that grew up with me. By the time he got to start school, I think I was already on my third school. Yeah, I was already at AC Phil Randolph because I'm like, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm older than him. So I was at Randolph, and as my mom and stepdad were in pursuit of the American dream, the home ownership is the American dream. That was a year for me. I think by the time I graduated from there, I was like voted like most likely to succeed. I had like a mini plaque on the wall for being like best female overall athlete or something like that, because I was very active in just about everything. I was captain of the girls intramural basketball, but I was also a cheerleader for the boys basketball, and because our cheerleader coach was the choir director, I also sang in the choir. And she was very professional. She actually hired a professional cheer coach to come in and assist coach with us. So by the time we got to like our 8th grade, we had like a professional cheer experience where that year we actually won first place in cheerleading competition for the district. We were on our way to state. The basketball team won first place in the city district that year. It was because I had a cousin who was on the basketball team at another school, and we actually beat his school that year because his school was like notorious for being great, and we even beat his school that year. So of course I had to brag about that to him. So it was just great. I'm one of those kind of people that I don't cry easily, but I cry in certain situations. And when we won first place for cheerleading, I actually cried for that. And they were like, so because I was glad that it was over, but it was just like, oh my God, we actually won. It was, and because I did choir with the cheerleading coach, she knew that I had a voice, and so the professional coach had me call out some of the cheers. And I remember one cheer that we did was the title was "Hey You Guys." So I'm like standing there with my ribbons in and my socks and my skirt. I was hey you, like call out that cheer for that, and we won first place that year. That was the cheer we did. So it was a really awesome experience. Yeah, just getting into the why I chose this career, just going back to my years of being in elementary school, with the sports activities. The coach that we had, even though he was a basketball coach, he was also big on like Special Olympics and Olympics and things like that. And so he would have us to do like these kind of training activities, almost like military style training, like boot camp kind of thing. So it was these obstacles that we would have to do, and that's where the mini plaque came in, where you kind of do. I think I ran track too, but it wasn't with the school. I think I ran track with like the park district. But those obstacle trainings kind of allowed us to incorporate a lot of different types of sporting activities into time. It was timed activities, and so I didn't win first place in like any particular one, but my scores were like top in so many of them that it kind of gave me enough points to be like the overall. It was odd how that happened, but he would have like this plaque in the hallway, and every year he would add someone's name, whoever won that spot. And so you would see, like, my maiden name is Sanders. You would see Shanstella Sanders on the wall for that year. Go figure. Now it's like, yeah, I got somewhere inside that. But from there, I went to Lindblom, and I actually only had 3 years of high school because I was in cheerleading. You have those elementary schools where you can do high school level classes, and so I qualified for like the high school level math because my Iowa test scores were like always high. I think in 7th grade I had like 11, 12 point Iowa test scores in math and stuff. But because I was a shooter, I couldn't make it to the high school. They had like high school classes before school started, and I had to go to practice. So I guess either me or my mom or both talked to the people at Lindblom, and they were like, hey, she's in cheerleading, but her Iowa test scores are high enough. So by the time I got there, they still let me be in the honors math program because of my scores. And so because I was in the honors program, by the time I got to like the end of my second year, I had a lot of extra credit hours that afforded me to only need 3 years of high school to graduate. I think it was gym that was a question. It was like someone in the administration said, no, you can't do it because you need to have a year of gym for 4 years of gym. And then somebody else came up and said, no, it doesn't have to be 4 years of gym. It just needs to be a year of gym for every year in school. And if she's only in school for 3 years, she can technically graduate. And so I took like my Constitution, U.S. Constitution, everybody got to take that. I took that in the summer between my second and third year just to get that out of the way. And yeah, I only had 3 years of high school. In my mind, I figured that I kind of made up for having to start school late. Because, in CPS, I'm a December baby. My birthday is Christmas Eve. And so if your birthday is after Labor Day, you already know you're going to be held back a year. And you can't start school. You got to wait to the next school year to start. So you have to stay in preschool a extra year. So I figured, I told myself, me graduating 3 years in high school was me catching up. was me getting back at CPS for making me stay that extra year in preschool. Was that being vindictive? I don't know. I was still able to I won an essay contest where I was able to take a picture with the mayor. At that time, it was Mayor Daley. Still got scholarships to attend. Augustana, Augie as we called it, even though Augie was like my second school of choice because Florida A&M, FAMU, was my first choice. But for a variety of reasons, funding reasons, church reasons, things, I ended up staying in Illinois instead of going there. But I think something deep down in my shondo still kind of wish that I had went there. But here I am. Now my kids get to go to great schools like DePaul and different other great nursing programs. So if you can't do it, then hey, maybe your kids may get a chance. Even though they didn't go away, because I think Aaliyah had actually got accepted at Clark Atlanta, and I kind of wanted her to go because I didn't go to HBCU, so I kind of wanted to live vicariously through her. but she chose DePaul, it's an excellent school, a great school, and she got to stay home, even though she had friends who lived on campus from all over. I mean, DePaul gets students from all over the world, and so she got a great experience of having friends from everywhere. That sometimes she would stay on campus with them. And when the pandemic hit, and she had some international friends who were having issues actually trying to get home, just to show her expansive friend pool there. And then after college, actually not after college, after my first year of Augie, again for financial reasons, I actually ended up going to DeVry because I couldn't stay there. My first college work study position was at Augie. I worked in the cafeteria as breakfast area, and then I went to DeVry where I had my second college work study position as a peer counselor. And it's interesting how how you have people that say I had a sibling or someone that's close to them, and you had never met that person, but somehow you, like twins that got separated at birth, but somehow they have the same profession or something, they had the same interests or something like that. It was kind of like that with me, with being a peer counselor, who I did that in college. And then when my daughter got to DePaul, she also had a similar college work study position, not knowing that I had done the same thing. It's something how that works out. And then also, I don't think I shared this in my book, but I have a story where I have two other sisters from my biological dad, because my mom and stepdad were the ones I grew up with as they moved throughout the city of Chicago, on the south side still. But yeah, we're South Side, in pursuit of the American dream, moving from apartment to house and bigger house. My biological dad, who I still had connections with because I had, an aunt who lived in the city, who I did mention in my book. I have actually two other sisters on his side, who I did not meet until age 40. I think I had gotten a call from my mom. Either he called me or my mom, one of them. And usually on my family side of the family, if somebody wants to reach me, they go through my mom. I mean, I don't think I'm difficult to reach, but for whatever reason, she's like my liaison. She's my contact person. The family wants to reach me, you know how to reach me. But yeah, my younger sister was getting married, and so I'm like, oh, okay, that's a great opportunity. And by the way, we have two. I think at the time I knew my younger sister because I knew my dad had gotten married, and I had a sister and a brother from that marriage. But I don't know why, for whatever reason. I think it was because I was in the church I was in, and it was very strict, and we weren't really encouraged to fellowship with individuals outside of the church. It was that being equally yoked kind of mindset, and I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't really pursue that relationship earlier. But thankfully, my dad did get us together for her wedding, and met an older sister there as well. And it's like, okay, well that's and when I saw her, I knew she was my sister right away, because we have similar facial features, definitely have similar physical features. So I knew that we definitely got the same genes. Somebody somewhere put those genes together, so we definitely got both of them. But I'm not sure if I think I may have heard of her because my mom was saying part of the reason why her and my dad broke up may have been dealing with something like that. Anyhow, this is totally different story. But thankfully, I was able to meet them, and it turns out that my older sister has a daughter whose middle name is the same as my daughter's name, and my sister's profession is also in accounting. And it's like, how? It's like, wow, we had never met until I was age 40. And turned out that we were in the same profession, and our daughters have similar names. Like my daughter's first name is her daughter's middle name. It's interesting how that turned out. And then getting back to my point in the book, how my peer counseling was what my daughter did at DePaul. And now that's basically as far as it goes, though, because she's like, accounting, nah. But she is pursuing psychology. I always told her, because she has an arts background as well and has done commercials and acting and singing and stage plays. I'm like, your ideal client would be artists in your age group, because we're constantly having this debate at home about the various artists. I'm like, I don't know who your artists are in your age group, because you guys don't know who mine are. Some of the ones they do, because their dad was a music producer, so he exposed them to a lot of a plethora of eclectic style music. So some of them they are aware of. But a lot of the artists in their age group, I don't know who they are. But I'm like, what? I'm quite sure they could use some counseling, especially now in this day and age where we're actually encouraging more therapy. I'm like, once you get all your licenses and all of your experience, your ideal client would be an artist in your age group. So we'll see how that goes. Because she can relate. She can relate. And then from my peer counseling, I also had a PR Newswire college work study position. And I had no idea at that time that I was doing that. I was an editor for a newsroom. The stories would come in, and anyone that has worked in media, once those, they would. I think it was similar to it's a show that's out right now, or it may be an older show, but I'm just now getting to it. But they would look at the incoming current stories, and then whatever was hot, they would decide on what to move on and what to pursue and research further, and then give it to the person who's on air, and that's their story that they will report on for that night. It was kind of like one of those kind of things. But we were the ones who were actually putting the stories in the system for the guys at the newsroom to see, to decide on what to use as their main topic for that night. And my job was to kind of go through and do some editing. It may have been punctual or grammatical, or just overall concept about that. It was an interesting position to see how now, using my radio and TV broadcasting, which was sparked from the radio hosting and now being a podcast host. I had no idea at the time in college, just working part-time as a PR Newswire person, just to get a few dollars in my pocket and pay for some supplies, that I would be here now. Something how those kind of things work out. And from there is where I kind of finally went into nonprofit accounting. So my first college work study position again, but at a nonprofit agency, was with a small nonprofit here in Chicago that provides youth services. And there it allowed me to get the first-hand experience of how organizations how they service the community. But it also because at that time I knew that my major was going to be accounting. It's, at some point you were thinking, I'm in college, I don't know what my major is going to be. I think I kind of always knew that mine was going to be accounting, because my mom worked at a bank, and math was always my best subject. So I kind of put the two together. It was like, oh yes, that would be a great major for me. I think I decided that in high school when I was, applying for schools to go to, because I wanted to make sure that I at least went to a school that was not only a good school but also had a good accounting program. So after doing the peer counseling and the PR Newswire, I'm like, you know what, my major is going to be accounting. I would really like to have something in my field. And so there I was, got a chance to do some sequential filing, like the very, very basic operations of things, and then also organizing AP invoices. Then I got into, entering transactions into the accounting software. And so it's just basics, but it was enough to get my feet wet and to see that, oh, okay, I can do this. And even that was an experience that I used to expose my daughter to during my finance director position with the finance manager or director, I think it was finance manager, with the League of Chicago Theaters. I think during the summer months, I allowed my daughter to come up to one of the theater companies with me a couple times. And there I gave her that same kind of exposure, just kind of let her see. We had a bunch of papers that had kind of accumulated, and I was like, okay, this is how you're gonna organize these AP invoices. Do this section by last name, and then you do these section by the first name of the organization. And and just kind of showed her how to do some filing and so forth, and I'm sure she appreciated, even at that young age of being in elementary school, those business concepts of how to organize office files. And so, and even though the ride's not the ball, and I was still able to benefit from their labs, as they call them, where we got some exposure to database. I think it was DBase back then. I think the reason why I'm not a big IT advocate right now is because I was married to one. And so sometimes we allow ourselves to become handicapped when we have other individuals in our circle that can do things for us. Like, if I know you're a good cook and I do this right here, I'm not going to focus on that because I know you got that. I'm not going to focus on this other stuff because when I get something new in the house, a new phone or a new laptop or whatever, I'm going to give it right to you and have you program it for me. And my former spouse was the kind of person that if anybody in the family had any issues with their Microsoft Word, their operating system, they got a virus or anything, they knew who to call because he knew how to take a whole computer apart. He knew the hardware and software, and just I think there was times they would even call, what was it? Not GoDaddy, the IT people that you would call, I can't think of their name. After they would call them, they still couldn't get their issue resolved and would have to call him, and he was able to fix it. So there's no way I'm going to spend my time trying to figure this out when I got you sitting right here. But at times, as we progress in our careers, we have to go back and revisit those skills and try to remember. I remember some of the things that he talked about. I knew, that when you talk about those backups, it's like, okay, they back up, the various files on a daily basis. So if you lose something gets deleted, you can ask IT to recover it. If they can, certain things they can reinstall if you need to. So I knew what could be done, even though I may not have been the one who did it. And that's very helpful. You may not have the answer, but you know that it can be answered, and you know where to go to get it answered.